Hello and welcome. My name is Nikolas, they, she, he, and today we're talking April to be read pile. To clarify, this is definitely just a to read pile and not a review pile, and not a to review in April pile, as I have a lot of books I read in March, but didn't review in March to catch up on. Perhaps this is a good thing. I can only hope. But let's get down to things. Starting, as I generally do with manga, the first thing that I hope to pick up this month is Embrace Your Size, My Own Body Positivity by Hara, translated by Young Press in 2022. Since I'm in the process of working through a number of manga series already, I was aiming to find a one-shot to read this month. I can't help but be intrigued by what body positivity looks like for someone across the world from me. Quote, "What do you do when your body doesn't match the ideal shape as dictated by society? What do you wear when sweats seem to be the only clothes that fit you? How do you deal with the constant, overwhelming waves of criticism about your appearance from yourself and others? A love letter to anyone striving to embrace their size, this wonderfully illustrated, uplifting comic essay by a plus-size author chronicles her own journey with body positivity, what inspired her to change her mindset, and how she learned to love herself as she is." End quote. Then, continuing in the spirit of not starting anything new, I decided to try and tackle the second volume of The Po Clan by Moto Hagio, finally translated by Fantagraphics near the end of 2022. For better or for worse, I read and reviewed the first part of this duology all the way back in 2020, so this conclusion has been a long time coming. Quote, "In our concluding second volume, amnesia-stricken Edgar is found alone on a snowy night in England, separated from his Vampirella clan, who feed on the energy of the living, and while away the centuries in a village of roses, he struggles to remember his own name. Will Edgar regain his memory and be reunited with them? In stories like Piccadilly 7 o'clock, Edith, and The Last Will and Testament of Oswald Owens, there are murder mysteries, seances, and obsessions, and generations of humans whose lives are profoundly affected by a boy who does not age. Edgar and his embraced companions, his little sister Maribel and Alan Twilight, a 14-year-old from the 1800s. Fantagraphics is proud to present the second and concluding volume of this best-selling manga, which has been adapted into various media and is published here in English for the first time." End quote. Then, since I'm finally ready to put my Alan Moore's run of Swamp Thing behind me, my Vertigo pick for this month is going to be Hellblazer, Original Sin by Jamie Delano, John Ridgway, and Alfredo Alcala et al., first published all the way back in 1988. I have in fact read this volume of Hellblazer previously, but this time around I'm really aiming to finally talk about it. Quote, "John Constantine is a unconcerned, somewhat amoral occultist with a British working class background. He's a hero of sorts who manages to come out on top through a combination of luck, trickery, and genuine magical skill. The Original Sins collection is loosely connected series of tales of John's early years where Constantine was at his best and at his worst, all at the same time." End quote. Next we have Wash Day Diaries by Jamilla and Robyn Smith, the latter also being a person who worked on Nubia as well. This volume was published by Chronicle Books in 2022. Everything about this book is extremely intriguing to me. Quote, "Wash Day Diaries tells the story of four best friends, Kim, Tanisha, Davine, and Cookie, through 5 connected short story comics that follow these young women through the ups and downs of their daily lives in the Bronx. The book takes its title from the wash day experience shared by Black women everywhere of setting aside all plans and responsibilities for a full day of washing, conditioning, and nourishing their hair. Each short story uses hair routine as a window into these 4 characters' everyday lives and how they care for each other." Jamil Rouser and Robyn Smith originally kickstarted their critically acclaimed, award-winning slice of life mini-comic Wash Day, inspired by Rouser's own Wash Day ritual, and their shared desire to see more comics featuring the daily lived experiences of young Black women. Wash Day Diaries includes an updated, full-color version of the original comic, which follows Kim, a 26-year-old woman living in the Bronx, as the book's first chapter, and expands into a graphic novel with short stories about these vibrant and relatable new characters. In expanding the story of Kim and her friends, the authors pay a tribute to Black sisterhood through portraits of shared yet deeply personal experiences of Black hair care. From self-care to spilling the tea at an hour-long salon appointment to healing family rifts, the stories are brought to life through beautifully drawn characters and different color palettes reflecting the mood in each story. At times touching, quiet, triumphant, and laugh-out-loud funny, the stories of Wash Day Diaries pay a loving tribute to Black joy and the resilience of Black women." End quote. And while I've fallen a bit behind on the Realm of Comics book club, I will be picking up Static Season 1 this month by Vita, Ayala et al. And as someone who very recently read and really enjoyed Static Shock, Trial by Fire, and Rebirth of the Cool, I'm really looking forward to picking up this new Static Shock story. Quote, "At long last, the most famous face of the Milestone universe makes his shocking return. Bullied nerd Virgil Hawkins wasn't the kind of kid you normally find on the streets at a protest, but like everyone else in the city of Dakota, he was fed up. Unfortunately, the first time he stood up to raise his voice, the world turned upside down. The experimental tear gas released that day left some of his classmates maimed or dead, but it left Virgil and others with stunning new abilities. Virgil has power inside him now, real power, the ability to channel and manipulate electromagnetic fields. But there's anger burning inside him too, and what is he supposed to do about all of this? And first and foremost, what is he supposed to do about his bullies now that they've got superpowers too? A dynamic creative team of new comic voices, including writer Ayala and finisher Nikolas Draper-Ivey, join Milestone Media veteran layout artist ChrisCross to tell a new chapter in the story of the most iconic Black teen superhero in comic history. Like every classic Milestone tale, it will take you to places you could never dream." End quote. Then we have my 2 A to Z of queer lit picks. Firstly, I'll be tackling the graphic memoir Gay Giant by Gabriel Ebensperger, published by Street Noise Books in 2022. Quote, "A child who feels like an outsider in a world that's set against him. A boy who sings on the playground instead of playing soccer, who likes Barbies, and whose secretly favorite car is the one called Tutti Frutti." Gabriel Ebensperger shares with us his struggles with his own inadequacy, his feelings of guilt, and above all his fear that his difference will be discovered. The vibrantly bright pink pages of Gay Giant paint a picture of what it's like to grow up being gay in the 90s. The author, along the way to becoming an adult, realizes that the scrutiny of the world never ends, and that true acceptance must come from within yourself. End quote. Second, we have the middle grade graphic memoir Other Boys by Damian Alexander, published in 2021 by First Second. Quote, "In Other Boys, debut author Damian Alexander delivers a moving middle grade graphic memoir about his struggles with bullying, the death of his mother, and coming out. Damian is the new kid at school, and he has a foolproof plan to avoid the bullying that plagued him his whole childhood. He's going to stop talking. Starting on the first day of 7th grade, he won't utter a word. If he keeps his mouth shut, the bullies will have nothing to tease him about, right? But Damian's vow of silence doesn't work. His classmates can tell there's something different about him. His family doesn't look like the kind on TV. His mother is dead. His father is gone. And he's being raised by his grandparents in a low-income household. And Damian does things that boys don't usually do, like play with Barbies instead of G.I. Joe. Kids have teased him about this his whole life, especially other boys. But if boys can be so cruel, why does Damian have a crush on one?" End quote. Then we have Go With The Flow by Lily Williams and Karen Schneeman, published by First Second in 2020. Although it feels like it's been on my TBR for much longer, for sure. I'm still on the watch for more comics about abortion, but in the meantime, we'll have to settle for a comic about menstruation. Although that's not to say bringing menstruation front and center isn't also super important. Quote, "Sophomores Abby, Britt, Christine, and Sasha are fed up. Hazleton High never has enough tampons or pads or adults who will listen. Sick of an administration who puts football before female health, the girls confront a world that shrugs, or worse, squirms, at the thought of a menstruation revolution. They band together to make a change. It's no easy task, especially while grappling with everything from crushes to sick, to trig, to JV track, but they have each other's backs. That is, until one of the girls goes rogue, testing the limits of their friendship and pushing the friends to question the power of their own voices. Now they must learn to work together to raise each other up. But how do you stand your ground while raising bloody hell?" End quote. And last but certainly the furthest thing from being least, I want to finally pick up War of the Blink by Michael Nicoll and Yahgulanaas. One of my favorite artists, War of the Blink was published by Locorno Press in 2007. Quote, "The brilliant follow-up to Red, a Haida manga, another stunningly inventive retelling of an ancient Haida tale, the latest offering from acclaimed graphic artist Michael Nicoll and Yahgulanaas. War of the Blink is a stunning full-color graphic novel about war and peace. It is the story of a fisherman who suspects a party of raiders is descending upon upon his island home. When his warnings are not heeded, the man sets out to guard the village on his own, only to find himself caught up in a high-stakes game of kidnap and bluff. All this leads to a final showdown in which one of the sides must blink first, and the villagers find a surprising way to save face and their home, and avoid bloodshed. Combining traditional Northwest Coast and Japanese comic art in Yahgulanaas' own dizzyingly original mishmash, War of the Blink is a timeless fable about the bravery it takes to choose peace over war. An early version of the artwork was displayed at the Vancouver Art Gallery, a part of the groundbreaking exhibit Raven Traveling. End quote. And I think that covers just about everything on my end. What are y'all looking to read this month? Bye y'all, keep reading An Organized and Capitalist Oppression. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, non-Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.